From Tally to Cali,
It's time
to wake up.
Wake up!
Warchant.com is your ultimate Seminole sports source.
And this is Wake Up Warchant, presented by
Vitamin Energy.
The vitamins.
The energy.
Now here's Warchant.com's Aslan Hajavandi
and Corey Clark.
Wake up! It's Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. Coming up on today's show, for the first time since offering his resignation, we hear from the man himself, Leonard Hamilton, our takeaways from his post-game press conference. And our takeaways from 4 defensive transfers who stepped to the podium for the first time as Florida State Seminoles on Tuesday. Wake Up Warchant presented by Vitamin Energy. VitaminEnergy.com. Shake it, take it, world's first, only, clinically proven energy shot. Benefits of Vitamin Energy: plentiful, supports weight loss, healthy gut, 7 hours of energy, probably even more. There's 260 milligrams of all natural caffeine, everybody. Tastes great, convenient to drink, no sugar crash, immune health boosted, and fast acting. Who's got time to wait, everybody? That's why we have everything in the show notes so you can scrub around and find what you want in the show. Vitamin Energy just makes it really impactful right from the jump. Not even 2 full ounces. Take a shot, sip the juice, vitaminenergy.com. Warchant.com, ultimate Seminoles sports source. What you waiting for? Come on down, everybody. Hop on the ultimate Seminoles sports source over at warchant.com. Full access to the Tribal Council. You can check out what the Alabama folks are saying about Ryan Grubb reuniting with Kalen DeBoer, the Tide's coming back, blah, blah, blah. You can get on the Miami board, see what they're saying. The Florida boards can't interact. But that's good. You don't want to sink down to their level that deep. You just want to kind of lurk a little bit, if you will. Join us over at warchant.com. Read Corey's columns, Ira's columns. Great rundown from the Jump Our guide. Give you some names of people that are probably on the short list to replace Leonard Hamilton. We're not gonna throw any names out there right now. Maybe let that stew out there in the behind the warchant.com Tribal Council walls, and then we can talk about it a little bit later. But hop aboard, find it out now. Corey Clark in the house as well. Corey, how are you, friend?
I'm good, buddy. Thanks for asking. How are we gonna do this? Because we're recording this part before the basketball game tonight.
Yeah, we don't have to talk about basketball right now. It's completely. Although I do want to tie together.
Well, I mean, it is Leonard talking about him resigning. That is a big story. That's probably a bigger story than Randy Pittman. No offense to my man, Mr. Pittman, but that's what I was saying. Like, not necessarily whether they beat or lose to Notre Dame, who cares? But Leonard will address the resignation after the game. So that's something we'll be talking about at some point in the show.
Who knows? Maybe by this time you're listening to this will be minute 40 because I'll have put the Leonard stuff at the beginning of the show. All right, through the technology and the wonder of editing, we're going to try to make this go as smooth as possible. The original plan was first part of the show, Corey and myself, takeaways from the 4 players that we spoke to on Tuesday, the football players, and then do our thoughts on Leonard's comments following the Notre Dame basketball game in the second part of the show. But change of plans, Corey and myself going on for 30 minutes with takeaways from the football interviews. That'll be following this sort of quick segment here on Leonard and the basketball team. So the Hoops team, men, take down Notre Dame 67-60. Good win, get off the schneid for the Noles. But obviously this is the first time we were able to ask questions and speak to Leonard Hamilton after he tendered his resignation on Monday afternoon, effective at the end of the season. So it was like a 30-minute interview. It's incredible. It's really good stuff. Go listen to it if you've got the time. I know a lot of you don't. So pretty much I went ahead and extracted every single comment he made during that press conference that was relevant and on the nose about simply him and his decision to resign at the end of the season. So here are the comments that he made. We'll talk about it here in a minute.
In relations to my resignation announcement, I tried to be very matter of fact. I didn't try to make it emotional. We just explained to him how the game is, and sometimes there becomes a time when you have to make a decision. I didn't dwell on it a lot. I didn't try to put anybody on a guilt trip. We just wanted to be very matter of fact that we got a lot to play for. This is what I'm going to do, but now what are we going to do? And I thought the guys responded very well.
You just mentioned that there comes a time you have to make a decision. Can you kind of give us a
behind-the-scenes look at the timeline of that and kind of what went into that decision. And
what I'm going to give you is that there comes a time when it's just time. And I'm not going to do like a lot of coaches, talk about all the ills or what's going on, all the challenges we have. It's just time. It's time for Florida State basketball to have a new voice. And it's time for what's best for Florida State. And I also think it's what's best for me. The situation that we all are dealing with is that it's challenging. But none of that had a whole lot to do with my decision. My decision is based on how I feel. And those of you who know me, I think things through. And I really think it's best for Florida State. And that's hopefully to be best for me. Hopefully, I'll be able to have some part in the transition. I'll be available for whatever I'm needed for. I want to be available, but my main focus right now is wanting to finish this season, to finish the job that I've been hired to do.
All right, so there you have it. Really easy explanation. Makes sense. Doesn't seem like anybody's trying to save face. It's a 76-year-old guy. Last few seasons have not been great. There's no time left on the contract. So, sometimes when it's time, it's just time. 3 big takeaways for me on this one. It definitely feels Leonard-driven, this decision. Any potential this could have ended ugly, completely mitigated by him doing this. Looking around, realizing what maybe a lot of you thought long ago that, it was time. I think that's refreshing. Things have not ended as gracefully for coaches who have accomplished much more at Florida State. 2, no one likes the current state of college athletics. Even the coaches brave enough to speak out against it. And Leonard did say the current atmosphere didn't have a lot to do with his decision, but he didn't say it had nothing to do with it. So maybe the silver lining of all this unrestricted free agency in college sports right now is that it does make it easier to hang up your whistle for a lot of these guys rather than bitterly hanging on and kind of burning through all your goodwill. And then number 3 for me, Leonard seems to sincerely want to help in the search for his successor. Bobby Bowden sort of did, I guess, right? He brought Terry and him, brought in Jimbo. The head coach in waiting thing, I feel like it was invented here in Tallahassee. Mike Martin earned the right to hand off his baseball program to his son. It didn't work out. Probably should have hired Link then, but 11 invested 40 years of his life into the program. His son was there pretty much every step of the way. It wasn't a criminal hire. Leonard probably knows best what it's going to take to not only navigate this current atmosphere we all lament, but how to navigate this current atmosphere with the limitations. Let's be honest, the limitations you're going to have here at Florida State. That's going to be an incredible resource and luxury, I think, for Michael Alford as he conducts what we're going to think is a nationwide search. So stay connected to warchant.com, especially Ira's all over this right now with the coaching search. The names you need to know. I'm not sure we're going to have a timeline on this, but check out warchant.com. We were going to actually have Ira jump on the podcast, but he had to write 2 things after the game. So hopefully those are up on the website. You can check them out. Let's talk about football. We'll get to speak to some more newcomers on Thursday morning, but on Tuesday, a foursome on the offensive side of things. Markeston Douglas, which I don't know if we can call him Biscuit anymore. We'll talk about that in a second. Micah Pettus, your penciled projected starting right tackle. Sorry, everybody. Right tackle. I think I said left tackle the other day. Randy Pittman, the aforementioned Randy Pittman Jr., and then Duce Robinson. So is Duce Jr.? Is he a junior? Or is he the second? Duce.
I don't know.
I wonder if he's Dominic Robinson Jr.
What's his real name? Dominic?
I would think so.
Oh, that makes sense. That's why he's called Duce. Yeah. But they spelled Duce weirdly.
Yeah, like El Duce. He's like Mussolini over here.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. Yeah, I assume he's a junior.
Well, nonetheless, let's start, I guess, with Markeston. Well, that's alphabetically. Who do we got? We got Randy Pittman first. Let's start with Randy. He got to the podium first. I'm glad we got to talk to guys that catch the ball and guys that have caught the ball in a Gus Malzahn offense before because, we'll talk about Duce here in a second, but his excitement to be here at Florida State and to be part of this offense. Like Randy Pittman is living proof that, they throw the football when Gus Malzahn's at the operation and the controls of an offense. And he was able to go from, about 18 catches his freshman year, I think, to, close to 40 in year 2. 4 over 4. I mean, he doubled pretty much his production year over year from freshman to sophomore year. So I was like, all right, man, there's opportunities out there for you. And the more I think about it, man, I don't think he's here just to guide and mold Landon Thomas. Man, I think he might be here to push for some real legitimate number one positioning in this offense. What do you think, Corey?
Yeah, I mean, I 100% think he's going to play a lot. I don't know that he'll be the main target out of the tight end position, but I definitely think he's going to be a guy that plays a lot. Why would they brought him here otherwise? I think they know he can block. I think that's a question mark still with Landon Thomas, or they like the potential of him as a blocking tight end because they both work. Him and Herb Hand worked with it up close for the last 2 years. So if they weren't sold on him at this level, he wouldn't be here. So yeah, I've always thought he was going to be a part of the rotation, a heavy part of it. I think it'll be, Norvell and I assume Malzahn too, but Norvell's always liked to play multiple tight ends, 4, 5, 6 of them. I think Pittman and Landon Thomas are the two guys. They're like co-starters almost. In fact, there'll be games I'm sure where they both start. It's Duce Dade Robinson, by the way. His first name is Duce.
No kidding.
D-U-C, according to Wikipedia. Yeah.
Well, I'd wait for Noel fan to be the definitive say-so on that.
All right.
That's just me.
They have his middle name, though, Dade, for Miami-Dade, because he was born in Miami, so I assume he was named after the county he was born in.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, is that what a Noel would do? But then again, Lane Kiffin named his kid Knox because he was born in Knoxville, and he knew he wasn't long for the world in Knoxville.
Chipper Jones named one of his kids Shea because he used to play so well at Shea Stadium.
So. No kidding, really?
Yeah. Yep.
Amazing. Yeah, they don't list it in his bio over on Seminoles.com, his full given name.
I looked. I was trying to do some fact-checking. Couldn't find it there, but Wikipedia has it as Duce Dade Robinson.
Sorry, I didn't mean to throw them under the bus there. Anything about any substance to when these guys talk about tour of duty being completely different than anything they've ever done before? Or did last year kind of take some of the steam off?
No. I do think that's something that I mean, obviously nobody cares if you go 2-10, but it is because they're all hard. I mean, I don't think that Ole Miss has like a lackadaisical off-season conditioning program, right? Or Arizona State, or even UCF. Like all these college football programs have really hard, strenuous off-season workouts. But apparently, Florida State's is unlike any other. So I think that's a good thing to hear. That's a good thing to hear that without physical practices anymore, without the grueling hitting for 3 hours and Mickey screaming at people, it's good to know that Florida State, at least in that aspect, is still kind of working at an above average, abnormal type level when it comes to off-season workouts, I think.
I was just wondering because I remember like Richie Leonard gave that really good soundbite last year just about how it was like so much tougher here in Tallahassee than it was in Gainesville when they did their off-season workouts. Everybody's like, yeah, see, check that out. We're for real over here. And then, obviously. November,
yeah, but I don't know that means he's lying.
No, but I'm not saying he's lying. But I mean, It's
not a harbinger of like having a great season just because you have hard off-season workouts. Yeah. But it is good that they're all going through a really hard off-season workout.
Also a little bit familiar with the quarterback, Tommy Castellanos, building their rapport back, sounds like. Calls him a good leader. Always good to hear guys talking about that. Or I think it was Duce who called him a leader, but Randy was talking about just the amount of, sort of group togetherness that Tommy's trying to bring everybody together.
Yeah, it was another thing where it was him, right? It wasn't Pettus. It was Pittman that said that Castellanos called him up and came over to his house last weekend.
Yeah.
And organized an event where a bunch of people got together. Again, man, if you throw 21 interceptions, it doesn't matter. But I love hearing that. Like, is this guy like one of those dudes? Like, if he's making it a point not to just say the right thing, to look the part, to really be involved in his teammates' lives. And, man, it's obviously smart with a quarterback. You need them all to block for you and play well for you. But, man, I just think that's the way Duce talked about him, the way that he said Castellanos made sure he was there when he was visiting, made sure that he showed him around campus while he was visiting. Like, and then now they're like best friends already. And then the way Pittman talked about him just having him come over to organizing a hangout with him and a bunch of teammates multiple times, and then whoever it was last week talking about him. Was it Pettibone?
Yeah,
I think.
Pettibone.
Yeah, man, they're all different walks of guys. You got a former 5-star receiver from USC, an Ole Miss lineman, and then a Vanderbilt lineman, and they're all talking about kind of the natural leadership of the quarterback. That's not nothing, I think. Again, it's not everything, but it's not nothing. It's a guy that I think has an infectious personality and will get players to play hard with him, I think. We'll see. Could be wrong, but I guess I don't know. I think that, but have not seen it in practice
We're
at all.
hoping. It's hopeful.
I'm just saying that these are all good things to hear about a quarterback, that he is really, especially like a quarterback that hasn't been here. And a lot of these guys haven't been here. He's really trying to organize and make them a team, and that's a good thing to hear.
And the way Pittman talked about him, I almost took it away as though there's been a change. Like this isn't probably the same Tommy that he knew 3 years ago when they both were in Orlando.
That makes sense, though, right? Like he was a freshman, knew he wasn't going to play. Both of them, I guess, were freshmen. Yeah. Tommy knew he wasn't going to play that year, probably. You're always a little quiet when you're the new guy, so. Yeah, that's cool, man. That's a cool thing to know that he's – and again, I think when Castellanos came on board and when it became apparent that Florida State was after him, a really big stop sign for us, a red flag or at least a shade of red, a garnet flag about Castellanos was what happened at Boston College. And then, okay, is this guy not a good dude? Is he not a good teammate? And then here he is being apparently a great teammate. At least early on. I mean, we'll see what kind of teammate it is when adversity hits, but so far he's checking all the boxes you want for a quarterback who has to be your leader anyway. He seems like a natural leader. He's taken it upon himself to be this guy. And these are little things, man, but you remember how when Jameis would stand there on the sideline when the extra point team came off?
Mm-hmm, yeah.
And he did that a lot. Because, remember, I don't know if you guys remember, they scored a lot of touchdowns when he was the quarterback. He was always there dapping up all 11 guys that came off the field after an extra point. It's little things like that. I'm sure when he was 8 years old, Antonor, his dad, told him, hey, man, that's a good look. Go dap up the kids that kicked the extra point or whatever it was, 10, 12, or maybe he did it on his own. But those are small things that matter. Doing all the stuff off the field like this matters because, again, there was never any question about what kind of athlete he is. He's a dynamic athlete that's played a lot of football. Whether you think he's a good quarterback, he's traditional quarterback, clearly he's not one of those. But he could be a good quarterback. He certainly, I think, can be a good quarterback in the system. We did wonder about the off-the-field stuff simply because of the way it ended at Boston College. That gave me pause. And I said so back in December, it gave me pause. And then now you hear all this, and you're like, okay, I've hit the pause button again to where now it's playing. Is that still a thing? That's still a thing, right?
Yeah, you pause.
You pause something, then you pause it again, and it plays.
He'll pause the podcast, and then
you hit pause again, and it starts playing.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's obviously. I think it's a combination of things, right? It's the small amount of overlap they had at Orlando, where Randy was a freshman, and then they went through spring football together, and then Tommy transfers to Boston. So, I'm sure he saw a side of him there. I'm also sure that Tommy's well aware. It's weird calling him Tommy. Yeah. I'm sure he's well aware of what's been said about him and what kind of reputation he might have, like from a national perspective. Florida State fans, obviously much more welcoming, much more forgiving, but I think that he's probably made and taken some inventory of who he was, who he is, and who he wants to be. And that's something that kind of Randy seemed to kind of intimate about a little bit. Like, yeah, man, it's, like we're hanging out and stuff. It's cool. So maybe Tommy might have been a guy that kind of kept to himself when he was at Orlando and maybe not as welcoming. And now he realizes just how important it is to have everybody on the same page and be that leader because he's the quarterback, man. And that's what you got to do. It's part of the whole deal.
Yeah.
Who's going to be protecting him? Micah Pettus. Micah Pettus, large human being.
Yeah.
Very large human being. 6'8", we got him listed as on the old On3 website. I didn't know he was recruited by Florida State coming out of high school, out of tiny Harvest, Alabama, James Clemens High School. Wasn't aware of that, but he did say he was recruited out of high school by Mike Norvell. That's what kind of opened his eyes to checking this university out after he left Ole Miss, after being there for, I think, the last 3 or 4 years. I mean, the fact him talking about, asking like, what position do you think, what did they talk to you about? And him saying that, nothing is going to be given and he doesn't want to be given anything. I mean, that was the biggest takeaway. Like, all right, this is another guy who there's people in the Ole Miss orbit that said he got, shown the door. He retweeted that and was like, this is incorrect. So there's competing narratives around that. That's a guy coming here with, I don't know how much really to prove, Corey. I mean, he's been part of a really successful program, and he's started a whole bunch of games and played in some really big time environments, but coming here, not wanting anything handed to him, and probably one of your leaders. So again, another little data point that trends in the right direction for the Noles.
Just a veteran presence, man. He handles himself like a pro. He's not as talkative as Pettis was. I don't think he's a naturally born leader in that sense, like a vocal leader. He even said as much because I asked him. But the reason I asked him about leadership is because he's sitting there and, to me, exudes it. He's just like a no-nonsense. I know what I'm doing. I played a lot of football. I'm a badass. I know I'm good. I know I'm going to play. I'm not going to say I'm going to play because that's not what leaders do. But I know I'm going to play. But he's a guy I just feel like he's a grown-up, man. He's a grown-up. And he's like, I know they had grown-ups on the offensive line last year. Lord knows they had played a bunch of football. But they had all been with the same guy. Like, it's like when they started that new school philosophy where, like, teachers would graduate with the kids from grade to grade. So, like, the teacher that was your first grade teacher would then become your second grade teacher, and then your third grade teacher, and your fourth grade teacher.
Really?
I don't remember where that happened. It was a philosophy. Maybe that was 20 years ago when Shanna was going through elementary ed or something. But there was a philosophy that's what – maybe I know it's at certain schools, but that was a philosophy they thought was good for the kids. And I'm like, man, I don't know. Show you can learn from different people. Yeah. Show you don't have one person that just favors you for 3 or 4 years. You got to go earn it. I just think I'm not trying to speak ill of the guys that left here recently, but they weren't any good last year at all. And I like the fact that these guys have grown up in different systems, and they're here, and they just feel like veteran, grown-up, mature men. And that's good to know. And he's a huge dude, and he's good. And that's just good to know. It's good, and it's also good that, like, he said he's not a vocal leader. He said he'll speak up when he wants to. And the way he said that, I'm like, yeah, you will, man. I absolutely believe that. There are a couple guys that were on this offensive line last year that I don't think would ever speak up when it mattered. I just don't think they would. I just think they were used to, like, it was like by rote. Okay, we go out there, we block a few times. We're going to punt. We'll come back off the field. There was never any anger. It never seemed to be like just exasperation. It didn't seem to be like a lot of player-led accountability on that offensive line. It was just, we're going to go do what we're supposed to do, which isn't much, and then we'll go back to the sideline and try it all over again in about 6 minutes when the defense can finally get off the field. And this guy seems like a guy that, while he won't say much, I do expect it. He won't be happy if the guard next to him keeps getting obliterated. And he's going to say something to him. Same with Pettis. These are just grown-ups, man. It's good to have that in a huddle. Not that offenses huddle anymore. It's good to have that on an offensive line. It's good to have that on an offense, especially when you used to have when last year you had the worst offense in the country.
Well said. CPTallybar.com, the website, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. Daily lunch specials from 11 a.m. to 3 p.m., $8.99. Side dish of your choice. Corey was not at trivia last night. Can you believe it? Very disappointing, Corey. It's okay, though. Thursday night's bingo night. Maybe he'll be out there for that. I'm sure he'll be out there between then and now. You guys should hang out at the Corner Pocket Bar and Grill. Ice cold drinks, delicious food, Vegas wall of televisions. Don't have any plans for the Super Bowl? Head to the CP, hang out, meet some friends. It'll be a good time. Corner Pocket Bar and Grill, 2475 Appalachia Parkway. Duce Robinson. That was a fun one.
Yeah. Why'd you take out the start?
I wasn't recording it.
Oh, you weren't when he walked in?
No, because I'm trying to upload the previous interview. So I was going to say, I am uploading at that point, I think, Micah Pettus, and I'm looking down, and I'm just looking down at my keyboard and typing stuff in, and I hear this guy like, who here's from Warchant? And I'm like, oh, man, here we finally.
Here we go.
All right. The checks come due on this mouth running itself all these years. And then he's like, I heard, and he started talking about his dad working for us, or not working for us, but doing
working with us.
Yeah. So that was super cool. But yeah, no, I did not hit record on that. I'm sorry, but that would have been good. You guys lost out on that. I'm sorry.
No, I wasn't criticizing. I get it. I thought you had intentionally not included that in the video that's on the like it was too self-aggrandizing or something.
Oh no, we love that. I love that stuff. I love that stuff. So, yeah,
but no, that's how he started it. Just pure personality. Coming in talking about just like hello, how you doing? He said the thing about Warchant, and then it was just a joy to hear talk for whatever it was, 12 or 13 minutes.
Yeah. I'm curious about when he talked about it was different this time around. Because I don't know how the recruiting went down when he was leaving high school and ended up picking USC over whomever. I don't know if Florida State was one of the schools that he ended up picking USC over, but when he just talked about looking at things differently, he wanted to get his recruiting done as fast as possible this time around. And then I think Michael Langston over Warchant.com, I think a lot of his reporting when we were waiting for the decision to come down from Duce was just how well of a job the staff did on making Duce feel like a priority. And, him getting that vibe, I think Duce even hinting at that as well, and what Michael was able to get from guys in back channels. And, listen, there's, playing time. Can you get me to the league? Can you develop me? Can you get me an NIL deal? I mean, these things probably, everything runs the gamut of what makes these kids make the decisions they make now when it comes to picking a school. And some are weighted a little bit more than others. But I really do think, Corey, I do think whatever pitch, and I don't want to use pitch like as a pejorative here where like they lied to him and sold him some false bill of goods. But I really think whatever vision they laid out for Duce, not so much the way we're going to use you, but just how badly we want you to be part of this offense, really seemed to make an impression on him. And I think that's that's an encouraging thing when there's so many different ways to recruit and bring in elite talent to your program these days.
Yeah, and look, man, hopefully again he stays healthy. He's going to make plays and he's going to be fun to watch and certainly fun to talk to after games. And I assume he's going to get a lot of balls thrown to him since apparently he's best friends with the quarterback, which is smart by him, right?
Yeah.
Get in there early. I appreciate that the way he talks about his dad, because he's like, it's cool to be Dominic Robinson's son.
Yeah.
It's cool to come here because I guess Dominic hadn't been here in a while, maybe over a decade before the recruiting trip, and he's like, it was really cool to be. It was really cool to be there with my dad and see the places that he's telling me and my mom about all these places he used to go to and kind of where he used to hang out. And it was really cool to see that. And then he pivoted and he goes, so it's really cool to be Dominic Robinson's son here, but I want to be, my whole goal, my whole life is to be better than him. That's a motivation. And I also want to be my own guy. I want to be Duce Robinson. I love being Dominic Robinson's kid, but I don't want to just be known as Dominic Robinson's kid. And that's a lot of people say that. He truly believes it. Look, let's be honest. He's already a better receiver than his dad was. He's accomplished more, except for the 4th and 14 now.
Yeah, man, come on.
I think Dominic had a touchdown in that game too, the 0-3 Florida game. But look, Duce. I think Dominic would tell you this, that Duce is more talented than him, and he's certainly bigger. And he's been working out with his dad probably since he was 6 years old. So he's an impressive dude, and he's impressive physically. And I just like the way he talks. He seems kind of no nonsense. He's not sitting there telling you he's going to have 1,000 yards receiving or 1,200 yards receiving or 10 touchdowns. He just, when I asked him how good could he be, or however I phrased that question, how good did he want to be, and he's like, I want to be a better technician. He goes, I want to be. He goes, he's like, and also I don't want to be called athletic for my size. I want to just be athletic. And I thought that was telling. Like he was basically like I was made a tight end just because of my size. And he's like, I got love for all of our tight ends, but I don't want to be a tight end just because I'm big. Like I'm a receiver that can move. Everything he talked about, he just was an impressive guy, I thought.
Also, him talking about just to try to get my humanity back. I heard somebody talking on a podcast about lamenting Luka leaving the Mavericks and all of his friends being like really hurt. And he's like, yeah, man, I'd rather he's really hurt. The rest of his friends are like, it's not that big of a deal. And he's like, when did you lose your humanity and your fandom? And I'm like, yeah, I wish I could tap into some of that. But to hear him talk about being a kid, being able to stay up past curfew and watch Jameis and the Noles take out Auburn, and knowing that Gus Malzahn was the head coach of Auburn, and just like that memory of his dad lifting him up after they won the national title. again, don't know how that's
really
going to
cool.
Yeah. I don't know if it's going to get him open on 4th and 9, but just to know that it is a real thing. Like how much he appreciates not only his father and what his father did at this school, but just being like the son of an alumnus and just what it means to be a fan. Like that was special, man. That was really cool. I liked it a lot.
Yeah, he said that his dad hoisted him on his shoulders. I wrote about it, actually. It's on the website now. Hoisted him on his shoulders after they won the game, and that's one of his fondest memories from childhood. He was 8. I just looked it up. He was going to turn 9 in like a week. But I'm sure he was still a big kid. I'm sure 8-year-old Duce Robinson still was a handful to put on your shoulders. But, I think that's just – I think that would warm the hearts of Florida State fans because that was a great memory for all of us there, all of you guys listening to it. It's an all-time great memory. And to think one of the kids on the team, one of the most important players on the team this year, is a guy whose dad cares so much about it that he hoisted him up on his shoulders, and he remembers that vividly 12 years later. It's a neat thing, man. It's a neat thing to have a legacy like that. I'm sure – Cam Fryer maybe has we didn't ask him, I guess. But I assume Matt lifted him on his shoulders. I don't know. But it's neat to have legacy kids like that, especially one that can really deliver some big-time plays this year, which you think you will. I also thought it was interesting, going back to Pettus real quick, because I forgot about this anecdote, where he said that I think he said Norvell was the first person to call him. Like his name officially went to the portal at 9 a.m. and Norvell was calling him at 9:01, and I think he said Malzahn. They were like in a race to call him, and Malzahn might have beeped in while Norvell was talking to him. That's how much Norvell and Malzahn wanted Pettus. That's how much a priority he was. And like Duce said, Duce said this. It's human nature to want to feel wanted, and buddy, those two guys absolutely felt wanted. They were priorities. And they're upgrades. Don't know if it's 10-win upgrade, but those two guys in particular are upgrades over what this team had last year at those positions.
I like the question you asked Duce when things were wrapping up, and I wanted to ask him this too, just about but he was asked about what do you think about your skill set's going to translate to be successful earlier on in the interview, but I wanted just to ask him what do you think you can be? Yeah. I really do wonder with his length and his speed and athleticism and his wiggle and things of all that. Like I wonder how highly he thinks of himself in terms of, all right, if I'm coached hard enough and if I push myself hard enough, this is what I can become. But the way he answered your question, which was kind of in the similar vein when he talked about like wanting to be like a proper technician, like that's close, right? I mean, that at least, I don't know if he could have been, I don't know if he would have ever been like, yeah, like I can see myself as an 80 catch guy, 1,300 yards and a dozen touchdowns or something like that. But
yeah, I think that it's funny because he has this confidence about him, man. Like just the way he talks, he wasn't braggadocious. He wasn't cocky. I think he thinks he's going to have a monster year, and I think he thinks he's awesome. And that's good. You need that. You need dudes with supreme confidence. He's also done it. He's had some moments, some big-time moments. He got to play with Caleb Williams. He caught touchdowns from Caleb Williams. He was good last year when the ball was thrown to him. But, you can tell he doesn't want to just be good. He doesn't want to just be a 6'6" guy. Like, I love the fact that I do like that he talked about wanting to be a technician and a polished route runner.
And how he doesn't want to be
polished receiver.
He doesn't want to be called a good athlete for his size. He just wants to be called a good athlete.
Yeah, man. All that stuff is really music to your ears because that is kind of what we go to immediately when you talk about him with good reason. He's enormous. He's not a normal-sized wide receiver. 6'6" isn't normal. But the fact that he wants to be more than just a 6'6" wide receiver, he wants to be a 6'6" guy that can move, that can run routes, that can break off routes, that's a tactician, instead of just a freak on the outside, that bodes well. That bodes well. Obviously, his goal is to get the NFL, and his goal is to score touchdowns and make a lot of money in the NFL. But right now, here, it seems like his feet are firmly planted on the ground. And he's happy to be here. He's really excited to be here. And he wants, obviously, to have a very good season. He wants the school he grew up cheering for to have a good season again. I think that would mean a lot to him to be a part of that.
Shout out to Johnny Wilson, who might have had an assist on getting Duce here to Tallahassee.
Well, J-Dub, getting ready for the Super Bowl.
I told Duce not to compare Tommy to Caleb Williams, but I guess he had no choice with the way I asked him the question. But what do you think about, again, they've hit it off really well. He mentioned about how instrumental Tommy was in his recruitment because, Tommy was the first guy to commit and then started calling everybody up. And, called them both magicians. and like special level players that just can make things happen. And it felt like really sincere, because I just wanted like, just give me something that's, something of like a trait of Caleb's game that got you prepared for something similar to what Tommy can do. But he kind of jumped full, head first into talking about effusive praise about how good Tommy can possibly be.
But he also did mention the escapability. He's like, those guys are magicians. So he did compare one aspect of them that like, I think he called them magicians, right?
He did, yeah, he did.
Yeah, they're never going to get sacked, which is untrue. I saw Caleb Williams get sacked quite a bit this past year with the Chicago Bears. But, I mean, they're guys that keep plays alive well past 3, 4, 5 seconds. And so I think that's the biggest similarity right now, obviously, is that the escapability, the getting out of the pocket, but still being able to make plays downfield. Different kinds of quarterbacks, obviously. Castellanos is not Caleb Williams, not close. But that one thing he probably does better than Caleb Williams. Well, there's no probably. He does do that better than Caleb Williams because he does it just about better than any quarterback. I don't know, man. He's in the top 1% of the last 10 years of quarterbacks' running ability all over the country. So this is an elite skill he has. And it is interesting to see because I think he said they had scramble drills all the time at USC with Caleb. I wonder, I mean, they would be smart to add a period where receivers are running around trying to get open because the quarterback is scrambling around there like a squirrel you can't tackle.
There we go. And lastly, but not least, our guy Markeston Douglas, which, I don't know if we can call him Biscuit anymore, says he's down to 260 and –
well, close. He said that's where he wants to be by spring, and he's close.
Okay. All right. So maybe like 265-ish right now?
Yeah.
Just you need all sorts of pieces. Like, it's harder, I think, to define it within the confines of a football locker room because you've got 85-plus guys. But there's certain glue guys on an NBA bench or a college basketball bench, I think, that are just like good locker room guys, good for morale. And I'm not trying to minimize the impact that Markeston can maybe make on the field if he is 258 and feels really good and can move well, but still keeps his strength. But just the way he talked about Tallahassee was home and, still kind of keeping up with the program when he was over at Arizona State and wanting to come back, and the feeling of moving back into the locker room when he arrived here last month. Some kind of good energy there because, listen, there's just so much turnover year after year after year. Yeah. And, he's one of those guys that can probably walk in and, give some maybe clear eyes of what he sees and what he's feeling. And guys will listen to him because, he cares about the program. He was here, as he pointed out, like I was here in 2020. Like he lived through that. He lived through 2021. And he wants to restore those 13-win, 10-win seasons. So maybe there's a little bit of a maturity, too, to Markeston for kind of embracing what his role can be as a leader this time around. Because surely he wasn't asked to do anything of the sort when he was here in 2020 through 2023.
Yeah, and it was cool to hear him talk about how hard it was to watch last season. He said he kind of felt like he let the team down. Now, again, they weren't 2-10 because they were missing Markeston Douglas.
Yeah.
They were missing a lot more than that.
Hey, the tight end had some bad timely drops.
You ain't lying. So. You ain't lying. But, I mean, I don't know that he's the difference in 2-10 and 9-3. But I like that. I like the fact that he said that. Again, it sounds like I liked everything they said. Markeston Douglas, I don't assume will make a huge impact on this team, not in the passing game anyway. I do think it's a nice option to have when you know you're going to be running the ball a lot, to have a tight end that I wouldn't want him to get further down than 260 because I want a glorified tackle at tight end. I want a guy that can really hold the edge with a running attack like this. But it was cool to see him kind of lament that he wasn't here for his teammates, that he left, things went downhill. His last game was I assume it was the Orange Bowl. Maybe it was the Louisville game. And then he goes to Arizona State, and they have a good year. And even while they're having a good year and making a run at the playoffs, and they get to the playoffs, he's kind of, lamenting the fact that he's not back at Florida State because he wanted to go elsewhere. He wasn't really clear on why he did that, which is fine. He's back now. He was welcomed back. He made it pretty apparent that Chris Thompson, the tight ends coach, did not want him to leave when he did after last season. They weren't a big fan of that, but no bridges were burned, and he's back. But I did like the way he talked about the culture, and he liked what he missed, and how he thinks maybe he could help the younger guys just a little bit. He's not coming in thinking he's going to start or be a star, but he's back home, and he's one of the holdovers. There aren't many guys. Is he the only one that was here in like 2021 that was here for Jacksonville State? There aren't many of them.
Shaheem?
Yeah, him and Shaheem probably, right? So that's cool, man, that he's got that perspective. And it's a good question. I don't know if you asked it. Somebody asked it. It was a good question. Maybe it was Jordan asked about the similarities between the playoff run and the good season that Arizona State had in 2024 and the really good run that obviously Florida State had in 22 and 23. And he just basically said, it's not a surprise, hard work.
Hard work.
They worked hard. He did say it's hotter in Tallahassee. That's what he intimated, right? He said it's more humid down here, so it feels hotter to him.
Well, he's a son of the South. I think he's from Tennessee, so he's probably more comfortable in this, the dry heat.
Yeah.
In the desert, just hits different. You don't like that stuff. You need a little humidity in the air there. So, all right. Anything else to add on those four gentlemen, Corey? I think we did it, man. We did it. That was like 30 minutes on that, everybody.
We did it. Yeah.
You're welcome. Us here doing our jobs. All right. So on Thursday, again, we'll get another batch of young men. It'll be Tylen Coleman, Jason Jenkins, Caleb LaValle, and Deontay McCray. So back on the defensive side of things. That'll be in the morning on Thursday. So we'll have something to talk about on Friday, in addition to the triumphant return of the Renegade Express mailbag and generating discussion sparked by Cummins. So by the time you're listening to this, there should be the thread on the Tribal Council. I don't know if it's going to be tacked, but just look for Renegade Express, and I'll give it some fancy title on the Tribal Council, and hop in there, post your question. And again, best one gets thrown into the monthly drawing for a gift bag, and then the end of year grand prize drawing for a free Cummins generator or portable power station. I think they were up almost 2 full points in the market on Tuesday, Corey.
Okay,
just a juggernaut Cummins right now on the market, just an absolute juggernaut. So get involved in that. I went ahead and made the executive decision. We put this at the end of the show, Corey, so we're wrapping up. We're out of here.
Okay, tell everybody I love them.
All right.
I guess I just did.
There you go. Jeff Cameron Show, 1 to 4 o'clock. Tune into that and warchant.com around the clock. For Corey, I'm Aslan. Thanks for listening to Wake Up Warchant, presented by Vitamin Energy.